So I want to talk about mediumship work. It's quite different for many people, and it's very different who's doing it and why they're doing it. I don't know all the expertise about mediumship. I can only talk from my perspective, what I've seen and what I do. I think most of us are familiar with the Long Island medium, who is just a blast. I love seeing her. And she primarily gives messages from people who are crossed over, who still want to contact those who are living on Earth. That is a very specific kind of a mediumship. That is an agenda there between the loved one that has crossed over, the one that is currently on Earth, and the fact that there's still some emotion, there's some unfinished business, there's reassurances that are needed. This is not always the case when someone crosses over. In fact, from my understanding, we have a lot of different levels of souls. We can, just for the sake of naming them, call them infant souls, baby souls, mature souls, and old souls. When people cross over, very often if they are a mature or old soul, which doesn't mean they're better, it just means they're further along. They might be in the 6th grade instead of kindergarten. They are ready to review their life on Earth and make plans to move on to their next project. And very often they don't have a very big agenda with anybody left on Earth. They're connected to the people on Earth still. They might come back if there's an emergency and someone calls on them through prayer or meditation. But in general, they're not hanging around with an agenda. Oh, I've got to talk to you. I've got to tell you something. So some mediums focus on bringing in people from the other side with specifically with an empathic kind of energy, meaning they'll express the emotions. Oftentimes people will relive the death. They'll be crying. They'll reenact what was happening to the person at the time of death and what they were feeling and their last thoughts. And it can be very, very healing. Not everybody does that kind of medium work. And not every soul comes through to give that kind of message. I've also done medium work where the soul that has crossed over did not do so well on Earth. And perhaps they are a young soul. And they're still very invested in their life on Earth. They're still invested in being right. They still have connections with the person on Earth that may or may not be very healthy. And they will be in rehab on the other side. There are also ghosts that come through, and these are souls that are stuck. They cannot cross over yet. We see this in The Ghost Whisperer, which is based on a real person who does that kind of mediumship work. So those readings sometimes can be difficult. Not so much the Ghost Whisperer type, but some of the souls that are in rehab very often still have an ugly agenda with people on Earth. I've worked with people where they had perhaps a father that molested or incested them or was violent, and he is still attached to the human form. There is a part of him that is still haunting the person here on Earth, even though he has crossed over. He hasn't been able to let go yet. He got too emotionally invested in this particular life and some of the things that he did. That kind of work is very difficult, and the reading for the person is not particularly pleasant because it's not like their father has suddenly seen the light and wants to apologize and make amends for everything he has done. No, not at all. In fact, it's more of a haunting that is going on. The same thing, I did a session for a woman whose mother is still emotionally connected to her daughter, even though she has crossed over, and she is not loving her daughter from the other side in the sense of who's contacting the person still here on Earth. There's still an angry message. There's still an unpleasant emotional connection. And some of it is the person still on Earth, as well as the one that has crossed over, that there is unfinished business there, and therefore that emotional cesspool, we could call it, keeps cycling around, and it is quite difficult to let go at times. So sometimes people, when they go for a medium reading, at least with me, can be very disappointed. They have an expectation that it will be love and flowers, and there will be a makeup and everything will be okay, when in fact really what happens is the soul coming through from the other side is having enough of an issue that it still provokes the emotions of the person still alive. To me, this is a good thing because it provokes healing. In other words, a soul on the other side forgiving us cannot end the issue. We have to still work on the issue sometimes. So I would say when those messages come through, that we take them as a good thing because they're healing. In other words, if your father has molested you and you are still in pain about it and he comes to forgive you from the other side, where is your work still? Where is your work about the rage, the violation, everything that you still feel, perhaps, that is part of your original contract that you agreed to do? The other part that's very hard is sometimes these violators are often soulmates. They are people that love you dearly, that came here in this life and agreed to be the one to put you through pain so that your soul could grow. And this is not a very popular concept either in the Judeo-Christian circles or in the New Age circles. But I find this quite often, that it is somebody who dearly loves the human and wanted to be the one to get them through a very hard lesson. So when there is a crossover, there is a reunion, but there is no need for forgiveness. There's no need for patching anything up because it was an agreement to do that. This is what we saw presented in the movie The Last Temptation of Christ. There was a scene where Jesus asked Judas to betray him. And he says, I must die on the cross to wake everybody else up. And Judas says, why me? Why am I the one that has to betray you? And Jesus says, because you of all of them, meaning the disciples, love me the most. And out of love, Judas helps Jesus fulfill his journey that he agreed to, including being sacrificed on the cross in order to bring enlightenment to a huge part of the earth for a long period of time. So when you pick a reading for mediumship, make sure you pick you like, that you're very clear about what you want to get. Some mediums specialize in empathic connections. In other words, heart to heart, a lot of emotion, a lot of forgiveness, love, hugs, emotional resolution. Other mediums will talk on a more complex or abstract level, such as why this person hurt you, or why this person left, or what part they played in your soul journey. And there's not quite as much emotion, and it's not really part of the earth plane story. It's part of a larger story, the soul story. And the other part of this also is don't get angry with your medium. Sometimes we hear things we don't want to hear. We get messages we don't want to deal with. And even the Long Island medium, this happens all the time. They're just edited out of her show. So be prepared if you go for a reading and you want spirit contact. Be prepared for some healing to occur, whether it's through an empathic reenactment of the death, or whether it's from a more detached, higher perspective, I want to say, of understanding your relationship with your loved one. It will be a life changer for you, and it should not be done just for entertainment. The final thing I want to say is that some people say that they can talk to ghosts and help them cross over. Ghosts are spirits who are stuck, who can't quite leave the earth plane, and they are typically recognized by their ability to manifest physical events. They will throw things, you'll hear sounds, you'll hear things creaking around in your house. The reality is we can all talk to ghosts through prayer. Through a focused intention, we can talk to ghosts. We can also call on spirits to help them to cross over. In difficult cases, it is sometimes helpful to call in someone with more talent in that area. But don't be afraid to give it a shot yourself also. Don't be afraid to talk to those who have crossed over. They hear you. They will feel your intention. They will feel your energy. It is lovely work to connect with those that have crossed over. But remember, you are still here. And there is a reason for that also. There is a reason they left and you are here. So in any kind of medium work, do try to look at the information you get from the perspective of, how can this help me to better live my life? What is the gift here? Along with the grief of having lost somebody. And if you happen to get a message where it is clear that the soul that has crossed over is not giving you a message of apology or amendments or sorrow for what they did, please don't let that stop you. Please be a warrior about that. If that message comes through, it means that you have not come to a resolution. That is why that message is being pulled through. It does not mean that you are unforgivable. It does not mean that the one that has crossed over is unforgivable. What it does mean is that issue is unresolved. I hope this helps you in making a decision about mediumship readings, and I hope it opens the door for you to continue to look into the spirit realm so that it will help you on your journey. Here is a human, but we are still a soul, just wrapped up like sushi in seaweed. We call it the human body. Hope to see you soon. You can always come and visit me at Life Path Healings on Facebook, and visit my website, mariefoyer.org.